Howdy. We're leaving our free camp on the Murray tomorrow morning and we're heading south. So tomorrow night we'll be in a caravan park for a night where we've got access to potable water. We carry a small amount of water in the car, so we've got enough for tomorrow. So we're going to take the opportunity to treat our entire plumbing system. That's pressure side of the taps, non-pressure side, pump, hot water service and water tanks with an antibacterial solution, and to kill any mould and whatever's in our system. And the product that we use is Milton, which is available at supermarkets, $7 or thereabouts for half a litre, and half a litre we use one bottle in each tank. We've got 2 tanks, so 2 bottles, $14, and we're done. So we'll walk you through that. The caravan systems do generate mould, does grow within the systems. Despite what you might read on social media, mould will grow in the dark, mould will grow in water, mould will grow friggin' anywhere. So it's not a bad idea to treat your system every now and again. We probably do it every maybe 18 months or so, or thereabouts, give or take. Sometimes it might be a bit earlier if I remember, and sometimes maybe a bit later if I forget. But yeah, it'll be there. If you've got a caravan and you've had water in the tanks, there will be mould. It's very, very rare in my experience for there not to be mould. So it's what we do is very easy. So we'll walk you through that now and show you what we do. Alright, we've got a 3-hour drive or so in front of us today, and we're just about to leave camp. So it's a good opportunity as ever to clean out our tanks. And what we use is Milton, which is an antibacterial that's used to disinfect baby stuff, and kills 99.9% of germs. $7 for 500 ml. And it says on the blurb that you don't have to rinse. So I do rinse, but they say that you can use it, drain it, fill it up with fresh water, and then just start drinking it. So what we've got to do is we've got to get one of these into each water tank. We've got 2 water tanks, so we've got one of these into each water tank. It's 30 ml per 4 litres, so it works out at about 600 ml per tank. So I'm not going to buy an extra can, one of them's enough for each tank. And then what we do is we're not going to use the water in the caravan today. We've got another jerry can on the front of the van full of potable water, and we've got a couple of water tubes on the top. So we've got ample water for today. We'll bounce this around in the tanks for the 3-hour drive, and then we'll find potable water. We'll drain the tanks, fill it back up with potable water, and then we're good to go. Once we've got the water into the tanks, before we leave here, I'll charge up the whole system with water that's been treated with the Milton. So what I mean by that is I'll turn the pump on and I'll run Milton treated water right through all the pipes. I include the hot water service, other people don't. So as we're bouncing around, there's Milton sitting in our entire plumbing system. And then when we get to the other end, we drain it all out, fresh water, pump the Milton water back out of the pipes. And during that process, what you can also do is we've got every caravan has a water tap on the drawbar. We've got hot water and cold water. So what you can do with your hose, what you can do with your hose is connect it to your drawbar tap and connect it back into the tank filler, and just pump it through your normal everyday caravan hose. And if you're keen enough, get a connector or a toast joiner, whack the 2 ends together with the Milton in it, throw it in the front of the van, and then leave it sitting in there. This stuff is supposed to work in 15 minutes, but we'll leave it in there for the entire 3-hour drive. Alright, our water fillers hose connectors, because I find it much easier, so I converted it to that, so when we fill up the tank. So what we've got here is so we'll struggle, without an electric pump, we're going to struggle to get this Milton into the tanks. If you've got a a normal gravity filler. It's just a matter of hooking up some kind of large hose thing that pushes into it, and you can tip it into the top of it. It'll drain down because the fillers are higher than the tank, so it will drain into the tank anyway. We've got a 12-volt whale pump that we use to decant water into our tanks when we need to from other sources. So it's just a matter of chucking the pump in, hooking it up to the power, take the top out of the Milton thing because you don't need that, tip it in. We've got, this is just half a 20 litre jerry can off the front of the van into there. It's got a little bit of a chlorine smell about it, but not super strong. It's not like the local swimming pool where it's full of child tea. It's not that strong, but yeah, it does definitely smell of chlorine. So anyway, hook it up to we've done the front tank, so now we're going to put it into the back tank. Sorry, other way around. We've done the back tank, we're going to hook it into the front tank. Turn the pump on, and it'll now pump that mixture of Milton into the tank. And then what we'll do is we'll run it through the lines before we leave here, and then we'll find a water source in town on the way through, and we'll top the tanks right up till the water is coming out of those breathers. So the entire system will be charged with fillers, the overflow for the tanks, the breathers, and all of the pressure lines, the pump and the hot water service will all be full of Milton, where it will sit for the next 3 hours. And then when we get to the other end, or near the other end, we'll just drain it all out, undo the caps on the tanks as we're driving, if it floats your boat. Run it as it's running down the road, just drain it out as you keep driving. And then when you get to a potable water source, refill, flush the water out of the lines, fill up your tanks, and you're pretty much good to go. Alright, so that's now full. We can pack up our toys. Get the water out of it. And pack it up, hit the road, and disinfect while we drive. Alright, so we'll charge up these lines simply by just turning on the taps. So we've got hot and cold. So that's running out of the hot water service, and I want to get some of that Milton into the hot water service. So we'll leave that running for a little bit. We'll capture all that water that's coming out, and we'll just put it back into the tank. Alright, shower hot and cold, and capturing it in a bucket. And all the taps, and we'll capture all of that water. No point wasting it, and put it back into the tanks. You'll know how long to leave the taps on, because you'll be already aware of how long it takes for hot water to get through from the hot water service to the tap. That's about how long you need to leave it on. Alright, and then chuck him into the bucket, and we'll wash that. And once it's all done, it's all charged now, tanks are full, we just got to top them up to the overflow of the air bleeder in the tank, and then once we drain the tanks, we'll run the taps first, run it through all the waste outlets, so as it's flowing through there, we'll give that a bit of a clean as well. Alright, we've left camp. We've filled up both of the tanks with the Milton mix, and now we've come into town and found a tap, in this case the local showgrounds, and then we're going to fill up our tanks, but we're going to fill it all the way up until it comes out the breather. We see we've already done it, so it's coming out the breather, so that entire system is now chock-a-block. The only place that now doesn't have the Milton mix in it is the pipe from the fillers themselves down into the tank, because we've basically blasted all the water out of that with fresh water into the tanks, and the hose itself. So what we'll do now is connect the hose to the drawbar tap and run that back into the tanks in both fillers. and that'll flush the system completely with the Milton mix, and then off we go, and then we'll drain it out at some stage later on today. Stop. So all I've done here is connected the hose, our normal water hose, to the drawbar tap, which will run off the pump, pulling water for the Milton mix from the tank out of that tap, back through the hose and back down into the fillers, into the tank. So that whole system will be then full of Milton, and we won't lose any during this process. And then we just flick it across to the other tank. We won't film that, we'll just do one of them. And, so it's just a matter of turning on the tap. Cold or hot, doesn't make much difference. So that's now pulling water out of the tap, out of the tanks, which is full of Milton, running it through the entire length of the hose and back into the same tank that it's currently drawing it from. And then when we've done one tank, one filler, we'll flick the tanks over and then do exactly the same thing on the other tank. And then the whole system will be charged, and the hose will also be full. So then once we're finished, leave the hose full, put that connector between the ends, and the hose will stay full until we drain the tanks, and then we'll flush the water hose. So like every part of the water system in our van is going to be full of Milton for the next 3 or 4 hours, and then so that's enough. We don't do it a lot. This is not a common thing that we do, but when we do it, you might as well do it properly. All right, we just finished. Now we have just finished flushing the lines and the hose. So the hose is now full of Milton, and upload that off that end, stick them two together, and now that'll stay connected. So get the protector on there. So that hose is now full of Milton. That can go back in the box as it is, and we'll flush that out later on. So our whole system, hose, filler pipes, tanks, water tap, shower, shitter pump, everything is chock-a-block full of Milton. It takes 15 minutes to work, so they say, and it doesn't need to be rinsed. So we're going to leave it in there for, it'll stay active for 24 hours apparently, so we're going to leave it in there for the next probably 3 hours, and then we'll start pumping it out through the waste, shower waste, sink waste, basin waste, and then that way it'll also flush a certain amount of all the Milton through the waste pipes and the sullage, and it'll give that a bit of a birthday as well. So anyway, off we go to bounce our Milton down the road.